Welcome to the Florence Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. My name is Sally Wantz, and it's my pleasure to be your service leader today. I am joined today with Ray Plummery over here on my left. He's our sound guy. I got Jim McDermott, who's on the camera. We've got Catherine Hemmons, who will be doing Joys and Concerns. Dean Shrock is our guest speaker, but we also have in the audience, we have a real audience today. This is great. We've got Evelyn is here, Shelley is here, Deb Jordan is here, Barb McLean, Paula Harrison, and they're going to be here, so we're all going to be singing and having a good time. So welcome to you all. Thank you. At this time, I'm going to ask Ray let's cue up Jeff's Spirit of Life, and whoever wants to come forward to sing with me, we're going to sing hymn number 123, Spirit of Life. You in the audience, please stand and sing as well. Hit it. Hit it, Ray.
Spirit of life.
Oh, that sounds great. For so many years. It's a good thing I had the mask on because I forgot a couple of the words. I don't know what's going on there. So thank you, Jeff, for providing that music for us. It's always a pleasure to have your music here in this fellowship. A couple of announcements today. We have today at 5 p.m., September 6th, our entertaining, beguiling, fascinating, and fun Zoom gathering, 5 p.m. In your e-blast is a link to the Zoom site. So for those who've not been a part of this, come be with us. Enjoy each other's company from the comfort of your own home. The link to join us is in the e-blast, as I've said, and seriously, if you haven't visited us via Zoom, you're missing out on some fun time. So today may be your day to join us. Thank you. And as long as the weather lasts, we'll gather again next Sunday, the 13th, for another picnic. Isn't that exciting? I don't know if we're calling them a picnic anymore. Not many people are bringing food. They're bringing beverages. They're bringing their chairs. They're sitting around and walking around and connecting, giving those virtual hugs. But if you'd like to come with or without food, you're more than welcome to join us next Sunday, the 13th at noon. The other thing, as you've noticed in the e-blast, is Mark Levy is starting a program called The Healing Power of Humor. And it's a Zoom class, and it's intended to address the need of humor as a survival skill. Who would ever think we need to have humor as a survival skill? So you can contact Mark at marklevymusic.com. Classes start at 2 p.m. on October 6, 13, 20, and 27. Should be fun. Also next Sunday, the 13th, we have Reverend Ruth Miller with us again, and she'll be talking about something titled medicine cards. Don't know where she's going with that topic, but you know, give her a topic and she can talk forever. So God bless Ruth. She'll be with us next Sunday. There's also an e-blast, a special message from our Unitarian Universalist Association President, Susan Frederick Gray. As she says, this is no time for a casual faith and no time for casual commitment to what you value most. And you don't have to go it alone. Join us on Zoom later today, and let's be together once again. And finally, you noticed in the e-blast when you got that, there's some good news about our ministerial search. I'm not going to tell you anymore. I'm going to make you read it in the e-blast. But for those who are present here today, after we stop recording, I'm going to give them a little heads up. So at this time, as you at home go and get a candle or something that you can light, I invite Catherine Hemmons to come forward to light the flame in our chalice. I share these words from Erica Hewitt, and it's titled Bold and Courageous Together. The word courage comes from the Latin cor, C-O-R, which means heart. According to poet Mark Nepo, the original use of the word courage meant to stand by one's core, a striking concept that reinforces the belief found in almost all traditions that living from the center is what enables us to face whatever life has to offer. To encourage means to hearten, to impart strength and confidence. This is our work as a religious community, to encourage one another, to be bold in engaging the world around us, as well as what scares us internally, to give one another the confidence and heart to live as fully as possible. So with hearts full, we affirm our relationships with one another. We recognize our agency and our connective power, and we accept our responsibility to be bold and courageous. We light this chalice, symbol of all that we are, all that we have done together, and all that we will be as our shared ministry encourages those within and beyond our walls. Blessed be. I invite Catherine now to come on up. I think we have some joys and concerns to share, and I'll be glad to drop some shells in response.
Good morning, everyone. I really liked what you said, Sally, about the connectivity of us all. That is why we do joys and concerns. To really reinforce how we are all connected on so many levels, spiritually, mentally, psychologically, physically. Physically in this room today, especially because we have a handful of people. And this is new and enjoyable. So for concerns, here it is, the world around us. Judy Plumbury mentioned to me to talk about the attack on our local newspaper, that certain people thought that it was being too biased, too liberal. I'll tell you, when I moved here, I never thought that about this newspaper. So I don't know where they're coming from that, except that they're trying to repress and suppress it, and that's a concern. And what's happening in all the major cities, actually, of our country, especially Kenosha right now, Portland, Seattle, Chicago, my hometown, all places. And that is a concern that we live with right now. It's not going away soon, it seems. But our hearts can be full of the healing power that we want for these situations. Even when we're feeling helpless, our hearts and minds can be full for the possibilities of healing in this situation. A couple in there. Let's put a couple in there.
Got a couple.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone else in the audience have anything they'd like to share? Joy or concern?
They're all quiet.
They are quiet. Okay. Well, I have a joy. Remember I said
Did you get the kitty?
last week I was going to get the kitten. I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe when my life and my house, it's getting remodeled and everything's kind of calm and sweet in there now.
Yeah.
And now there's chaos.
Yes.
Because my two older cats, I thought, oh, they'll just embrace this little thing.
No.
Didn't work that way. So sleepless nights, one of us sleeps downstairs with the older kitties and the other one upstairs with the new kitty.
Oh.
And so that's kind of a joy and a concern. But I think it'll come along. It's only been a week now. So people tell me wait a month. A month, oh my God.
Yeah, 10 months. 10 months. Wait 10 months and it'll be fine.
So thank you very much. Oh, wait, one more thing.
One more thing.
So this is for all of you that are sitting at home, or even sitting here, and don't feel like sharing. Maybe it's just too sensitive a subject, or you're just not that sort of nature of person that likes to share. Know that we are with you completely. We are with you completely. We feel you, as the saying goes, but it's true, because there is only one. Thank you.
Thank you. Love those joys and concerns. And audience members, you are awfully quiet. Gonna have a little bit of a laughter here, like, does everybody really know there's people out there, right? I'm looking at them over here.
They've forgotten how to chime in.
They've forgotten how to chime in.
Yes.
So we're going to pause for a second and go into a lovely state of a musical interlude. This is a piece written and performed by Jeff Lovejoy, and it's called Reflections. And I'm going to ask someone who's at the back door or the front door if you would turn off the lights. I'm going to dim the lights up front, and Jim will sort of zoom in on a pretty something here in our fellowship. And I invite you to relax and enjoy this beautiful musical interlude entitled Reflections. Very nice. Very nice. Again, thank you, Jeff. It's my pleasure now to introduce to our pulpit our guest, Dr. Dean Shrock. His message is entitled, Fear, Hope, and Courage. Please welcome Dean.
Thank you, Sally. Thank you, audience. It really is nice to be back always, but to have a few more people I can also feel like I'm speaking to besides. Although I certainly appreciate what Jim and Ray and Sally do all the time. I want to set my coat down. Just making a racket as I do it. Okay, I want to make reference to some things already said, and it's so common actually when I speak to find that other comments just seem to feed right into some of the message that I wanted to share today. So one of the things Sally said early on had to do with this is not a time for a casual commitment. So as I go on today, I think you'll see how that makes even more sense. That there's something we can really, really do that's really important, and I think what lines well with your comment. This is not a time for a casual commitment. And then you also mentioned the poet Mark Nepo and stand by your core. And there's absolutely a time to remember who we are and our power and our divinity. To help us at this time, certainly as Catherine was reminding us, there's a lot of craziness. And that's how I want to begin my talk today. But as Catherine said, we are with you. And I want to remind you that there is something much greater who is always with you. And we can learn to rely on that, open to it, and experience a much greater ease in our lives. So there's no question that many are feeling overwhelmed. You know, whether it's Kenosha and any other number of cities, and whatever the issues, now it seems to be more focused on Black Lives Matter, but also issues of voting rights, the post office, Social Security, people losing their homes, losing their jobs, losing their income. Probably overriding all of this is that pandemic. This is very scary for a lot of people. So my message today isn't just get over it, you know, like just remember that you are God manifesting in form, but understand as part of your humanness. There is no way, if you're normal, that you won't feel that things are really a bit overwhelming. It's actually part of your humanity. It is actually part of who we are to feel confused at this time, but also to know that it is our nature to care. It is our nature to be compassionate. It's simply basic human decency. But the fact is, as we perceive it, there's a lot of chaos and even evil, I swear, which I want to consider and have you consider as a demonstration at this time of what can happen without love and compassion. If we focus only on gratifying our physical senses, I assure you, it really truly can lead to, and likely leads to, greed and corruption. However, I am certain if within my own meditations and information I glean, recently as well as over a considerable time, but at this time now, disrespect, selfishness, and greed are becoming crumbling structures. This pandemic has been a cosmic event that has brought us together like a dark night of the soul for the world. It is natural to experience fear, anxiety, depression before awakening and becoming optimistic instead of pessimistic. And a fundamental change begins at a grassroots level. At this time, negativity is being brought to the surface to be transmuted. It is a time of cleansing and purging and the birthing of a new civilization. And I want at this time to take advantage of some of the recent messages I've gotten that I'd like to share with you that support my message today. Many of you I know know of my considerable experience with channeling, and going back to the 70s actually, where I was involved with a self-help, self-development program, and the leader became my best friend and mentor, business partner, roommate. But what I didn't understand fully at all in first meeting him is, one, that he had been psychic all of his life. But when we began to meditate daily, at some point soon, he began to go into a trance-like state and channel. And so I had the opportunity every day for 7 years to get a very different kind of education from my formal academic education. And so it was really a unique journey and has been for me. But one I could not tell you properly how much I value. So now when I share with you today a message similarly that I value and hope will have meaning for you. And this comes from a channeled message only this past month from Tom Kenyon, who said, "This indeed is a time of transition in consciousness. It seems like a time of uncertainty. It is a collapse of the lies of our culture. Lies not of economics, wars, religions, but the lie of your identity that ensures your imprisonment. The lie is that you are nothing more than a physical human being, and that that there are no other realms of being beyond your earthly experience. This transition can be overwhelming with the major changing we're now experiencing, but do not blame anyone or anything. You need to take personal responsibility and remember, you create your reality. You need to trust what is as life transitions. And I like this image. Imagine a cosmic serpent shedding its skin, writhing, twisting, scraping off old encumbrances. The encumbrances of economics, politics, and climate change. Shock and overwhelm are a natural human response, as I said earlier. Many of us wish to go back to former ways and what's familiar versus a new life and new opportunities. And so this was a great message that really resonated with me. Be curious. How do we handle this now? Be curious and expect miracles. So in fact, it really is an historical time. And actually, if you can appreciate the perspective of, it's a marvelous time to be alive. I want to remind you, you came here, you knew what you were getting into. You chose this life. And I, at one point, made up my own little mantra or affirmation for myself, thinking about this. And it goes, I signed up, I show up, I shine my light. So this is the time to do what you truly came to do, and a time to reflect on what really is your purpose. This upcoming November election, according to this channeled information, will be the most important election in our country's history and also globally. This is the end of the world as we know it. Change is a natural process requiring adaptation and flexibility. And actually, my definition of health is the ability to adapt. And stress management is all about the ability to adapt.
Oh yeah, no, we're agreeing. Oh yes.
Do you want to say anything more?
No.
I did have one question. You said it's our nature to be compassionate. Why is it that it seems like there are so many that are exactly the opposite, if it's in our nature?
Okay, so
Repeat the question.
did that pick up? Because you're the one recording it there, did you, that can pick up? I should record, okay. Okay, so why is it when I say it is our nature to be compassionate, there just seem to be so many who are anything but?
Right.
One of the crazy things, as I understand it, about coming into an existence as a human being, is in a bigger picture way about why, is we have the unique experience and opportunity to experience polarities as another way to gain a deeper understanding of what it is we may have chosen to come to learn. And certainly we could say learn to love more fully, or learn more deeply about who we really are. And so I remember reading from the book Conversations with God's Neil Donald Walsh's comment, or God's comment, about we're here to experience what love is not in order to more fully appreciate what love is. And one of the comments that I will say at some point, but it comes up for me now, is that, and it's like the idea I already said about just loving what is that everything that happens, even if it seems evil or horrible, whatever it is, it serves a purpose. It's from this bigger perspective and in this sense of our inner and spiritual growth that the lack of compassion really makes sense. Does that make sense? It's like what's hot without cold, what's good without bad. And so we are constantly appraising, deciding for ourselves who we are and who we want to be based on our experience. Okay, we had that experience, we don't want to do that again. And so we continue to grow and honestly contribute to the ongoing expansion of the universe as we learn and add our perspective about what we think is the greatest version of who we want to be. Okay, and I believe me, I welcome your questions further. And let me add for our audience that I will definitely sit in on the Zoom call at 5 o'clock if any of you at home have questions or would like to be part of this discussion.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, so here's a channeled message from me 2 weeks ago that was given to me. We have allowed ourselves to be distracted by issues that cause us to focus on segregation and external issues when the importance is on the inside. This is a time to be learning more about ourselves rather than pointing fingers. It's a time to reclaim our authentic self, to find strength in that, no matter what happens. So I will certainly allow this as a very confusing time, but let's look at a bigger picture. And as far as I understand it, we've been preparing for a long time to reclaim our divinity. Indeed, information given to me before, which I know I included this within my book, Why Love Heals, when my friend Sharon Bauer was channeling John the Baptist. And this was his definition of sin: denying your divinity. We are spiritual beings, many say, having a physical experience. And John told me we are spiritual beings having a spiritual experience. We tend to focus on a sense of separation rather than realizing our oneness and our connectedness. So now I'm going to cite a message from someone else who I know you know well and love. And it was interesting when Sally announced that Ruth will be talking next week and talking about medicine cards, because I know that you know her new book came out this past week, which I read. And so here's some notes from Ruth's book that I think, again, fit well for the message today. So Ruth's new book, a shout out for Ruth, Apocalypse Now, Seeing Beyond the Veil. And you can get a Kindle copy on Amazon. So Ruth cites from the book of Revelations, at some point the world will no longer experience heaven and earth as two separate places, and that those who live in the new place of peace will be in continual relationship with the source of all that is. The world as we know it will come to an end as she calls an apocalypse. This may be our fulfillment and the achievement, however, of our life's purpose, which is, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Armageddon may be the place inside us where we come to terms with all that keeps us separated from ourself and our source. One last comment. The whore of Babylon may not be any city, state, or kingdom, but may be our own attachment to the material things of the world, ready to be replaced by the purity of our true soul's longing, a peaceful life in deep, loving relationship with the source of all we are and all that is. Isn't that all that we've always longed for? Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you, Ruth.
So in doing this too, I was reminded, because of my formal work, working as a psychologist and the necessity for treatment reasons, but also for insurance reasons, we had to give you a formal diagnosis if we were going to treat. And so I remember always feeling awkward, honestly, about giving someone a diagnosis, because then it kind of becomes your identity.
Yeah.
And I didn't want people focusing on being sick. I wanted focusing on being well and getting well. Anyhow, as part of this, though, and a deeper thought about what heals, and I wrote my book, Why Love Heals, and indeed my research concluded that people live longer with cancer because they felt loved and cared for. So here's my made-up diagnosis that I think really is our underlying explanation for many of our ills, discomfort. I call it forgotten identity. Truly, we have forgotten. It may sound a bit much to say, or question or ask, does God get sick?
Oh.
Does God get sick? Not the image we have, right? God is great, God is good, we thank Him for our food stuff. No, God is as high an image as we could possibly hold of everything good and great.
Right.
And if we align ourselves with that, if we live virtuously, not in terms of, I think, like Santa Claus, you'd be good, or, you won't get your presents. Be good because it's who you are. And when you're living your truth, your authenticity, everything flows better, goes better. That's why love heals, when you're living your truth. So, forgotten identity.
Wow.
Remember who you are.
That's your diagnosis.
That's my...
Forgotten identity.
Right.
I love it.
Okay.
That's nice. Yeah.
So also in my wellness classes, I know I've shared this with you before, so forgive reminding you, but it was a very strong intent to have people look at a will to live. Why do you really want to live? What do you want to live for? And I know you know through just common sense and your life experience, when people have something to really look forward to and live for, it makes a difference. So anyhow, as part of that experience of asking people what makes your heart sing, and people came up with lots of things, to be certain. Back in central Pennsylvania, where I was based with these cancer centers, deer hunting was huge. And so there was never a time when someone didn't say what made their life worth living was deer hunting. And certainly, and I know I've said this to you before too, but remembering back now, the first week of buck season, we could lose up to 2/3 of our patients. They were going hunting, which made it easy for me in trying to teach them about the importance of mind-body medicine and doing more of what you love.
Yeah.
When in the end, I would ask them to take of all of the things that they came up with about what gave their lives meaning and joy, there were always 3 that topped the list, even though these lists could get quite extensive. Number 1, almost always was your spiritual beliefs. 2 was family, 3 was friends. But I want to remind you about what I experienced working with literally thousands of people, is that your spiritual beliefs were the most important factor in your life. This is not a time for a casual commitment. This is a time to remember. Not like, I don't like the seriousness of my voice in a way because it's like, but to remind you to remember and reclaim your divinity. There's a reason for it, a very practical reason for it. When you do, your life will simply be better. And when you're in that space of feeling good about yourself and your situation, you will perceive life very, very differently. You will focus more on the positive and less on the things that seem to be falling apart and in chaos. If there has been a fall from grace, it's any idea of separation versus oneness with all of life. We are the ones we've been waiting for. This is a time for reflection on who we are and a much greater appreciation of life, as I just said. This is a great shift in consciousness, remembering we are vessels of love. We are masters with unlimited potential. And as we change our perception from within, so things go so much better. As we open to this universal consciousness, we can slip between dimensions and become more aware of other realities. Just kind of a practical reminder again that the great majority of people believe in God or a higher being or a greater being or angels. In fact, in scientific surveys, I've never seen one in America where at least 90% of Americans believe in God. That is a huge number. Again, it's a way to remind you when we get caught up in the day-to-day, we forget that part and the connection with that part of who we are. So a practical recommendation to wrap this up a bit is, so what do we do? And I suggested earlier to really take time to meditate and ask yourself what your life purpose is and what it takes for you to be fulfilled. Take time to meditate and connect with your greater being. One of the things I assure you will likely be part of that experience, and what I'm going to recommend is an affirmation. Because when we find ourselves in the middle of the tornado, we're not normally thinking, thank you, God, for this opportunity to learn and grow. Right. But rather than getting stuck in it's overwhelming for whatever reason, and there are reasons, it's to say something like, I am perfectly safe and loved. I know there's a very significant spiritual group that has an affirmation they put out this week reminding people to go from fear to faith, to remind themselves and say to themselves. Another practical way I used to use this in therapy is when people find themselves doing things or feeling things they don't want to, is they can say, thank you for reminding me I'm not doing that anymore. Give it a positive spin for a very good reason. It's a loss of perspective. It's real, but as a reminder that you can take another path. This literally is a divine plan unfolding. It is your destiny. Do not be discouraged. And I made a note here of a message I was given a while back, actually, but I remember it so well. If you only knew the deck is entirely stacked in your favor. It's all good, all of it. Even if it appears evil, it's good when seen, as I said earlier, from our inner spiritual growth. Embrace all that is. I know this takes courage, but here's another saying that I've liked for many years. Ships are safe in port, but that's not what ships were made for. So take time, honest, true, please, to be mindful. And if this helps, focus on what is. You know, my training in experience and research with guided imagery and focusing on what you want is a great idea. You are a very powerful creator. You do create your reality. So indeed, look to what you want. Seeing diversity being celebrated, or whatever it is that you want. See, feel, hear. See it, feel it. How would you feel if things really were much more in harmony? And hear it. What would you say to yourself? Imagine someone else saying, if in fact things really were so much more about love and caring and compassion. But start with mindfulness. It's easier, when you're feeling really crummy, in my experience, you're not firstly thinking, boy, I want to go on a nice picnic and everything's hunky-dory. You're mad, you're upset. But what's really cool about mindfulness is it says, focus on what is, accept what is. I call it the perfect act of loving yourself. Accept and love yourself just the way you are. Do that first. Honor where you are now, what you're feeling. And then, if you are up to it, transition into reminding yourself you are absolutely perfectly safe and loved. It may not appear that way at the time. So one last image. We are moving to higher frequencies and dimensions, and the image given through another channeling was, we are preparing for this like a caterpillar going into a cocoon and coming out the butterfly. So, in a very real sense, we're in this cocoon kind of stage, and it may not appear safe like a cocoon, but even though there's no way for many thinking this is going to have a positive ending, or certainly worrying about that ending, I just assure you as best I can, and as you are able to reconnect with your divinity, have a much healthier and happier perspective about what's really going on. Questions or comments? Yes, please.
It's so hard to accept that everybody is divine and good. And how do you do that?
Well, firstly, you have to say seriously, not easily. I really am a great fan of the Conversations with God books. But also there was another wonderful series about the masters in the Far East. I'm sure that's not the exact title. And I'm even forgetting the author now, who I so admired. And I was so pleased because I loved his book so much and was telling people so much about it. One time working with a woman who channeled, he came through and he was talking about how much I admired his books. Anyhow, one of the stories, literally he experiences a group of scientists going into the Himalayas and sitting with masters and learning what they do and doing things that you would think are absolutely miraculous. And there was a time when, in fact, they were gathered, these Himalayan masters, and Jesus appeared, and so did Hitler. And the question was posed, if you can't understand how it is that Hitler and Jesus could be walking hand in hand, then you don't truly understand the connectedness of everything. I don't propose necessarily that anyone in our administration is in fact not just a screw up, forgive that language, and really way out of line and out of alignment. But the times will dictate, because of what's going on in this bigger picture, someone was going to step in to play that role. From the Hitler perspective, or another perspective, thank you for getting our attention so well that we're now finally doing something about it. You know how I call symptoms benevolent messengers in my work in health? Initially, you're not thinking, thank you, cancer, thank you, okay? But what I learned over years in working with people so much is that many would say, even as soon as within a year, cancer was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because it is a way of really getting our attention that something deeper is happening, something is out of balance that we need to rebalance. And so maybe then again we can look at people that I even think, you are evil. And when you do something that stupid, you could never beat that. And imagine, oh my God, how this just seems to go on, and when will it ever end? It has an ending. It's changing. And I'm asking you to be hopeful for a very good reason. The deck is entirely stacked in your favor, I swear to you. So however, whatever it takes to firstly be mindful. This is a big leap for me. Just honor that for now. Yes, Paula?
I'm generally an optimistic person, but I'm having trouble with that. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking, oh, I want to believe this, and yet I'm hesitant. Still a measure of fearfulness.
Right. So another person or I submitting to the fearfulness and uneasiness with being hopeful or optimistic. Again, I genuinely appreciate that. You know, in my work, people don't come to me telling me they're happy and healthy and feeling good. I only get the opportunity to work usually with people whose lives are pretty screwed up. Life is difficult business. I know I've said this before at some point, but when I used to work with cancer, and first it was strokes and chronic pain, and I was trying to make sense of this, you know, especially if there's an all-knowing, all-loving God, what is wrong with this picture? And so really trying to come to an understanding of the role of suffering, and honestly saying to people for a while till I somehow was able to put this in perspective, life stinks. It just does. That, as I was suggesting for Ray earlier, that's part of being human, that you will experience what some call contrast. But that contrast is a way of helping give a meaning to an appreciation for when life is going more the way you want, and then leading you, guiding you more in the life you want. But honor where you are for real. This is really, like, I shake my head for real. I have to remind myself when I read what's going on and how could people ever possibly be that cruel. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all. Okay.
A lot of images are floating through my brain right now from your talk. Beautiful, Dean. Thank you. Seriously, very much. And great questions. So appreciate that too. I am perfectly safe and loved. Pretty easy to say, right? I'm also reminding you who are listening to this at any time, in any of our recordings, there is usually a pretty nice meditation musical interlude. Go back this tape up to the beginning of Jeff's song called Reflections. Listen to it again, especially after having listened to Dean, and meditate and relax. And then meet us at Zoom at 5 o'clock. So at this time, we are pleased to ask you to share your hard-earned money with us and with our community partners. For the next 2 months, we'll be collecting for the organization that puts food in backpacks for kids. And although there are no real backpacks right now, because not many kids are going back to school, this organization is still collecting and delivering food to so many kids in our community. I don't know how they do it, but your financial contribution to the group known as Food Backpack for Kids, along with a contribution in support of FOOF, will be greatly appreciated. And just so you know, the last 2 months, I haven't finished the count yet, but we're well over $500 in a contribution to KXCR. And you are to be congratulated for your generosity. So if you would like to mail your contribution to FOOF and to Backpack for Kids, or Food Backpack for Kids, you can mail it to P.O. Box 2502 in Florence, 97439, or click on the donate button on our website. You can designate how much to FOOF and how much to the community partner, and we'll take care of it. Future community partners will be Florence Food Share, Saisla Outreach Services, Habitat for Humanity, and the Friends of Florence. So we have so much to be grateful for all these organizations doing such great work in our community. So as we move forward with our offertory, virtually as well as here. I just ask everybody here if you would repeat after me. Divine love through me
Divine love through me,
blesses and multiplies all that I am,
blesses and multiplies all that I am,
all that I give,
all that I give,
and all that I receive.
and all that I receive.
I am prosperous now.
I am prosperous now,
Blessed be.
blessed be.
Thank you, everybody. I invite you at home, and I invite Catherine to come forward to extinguish the flame of our chalice as I share the following from Maddie Cefantis. We extinguish this flame, but we keep its light in our hearts with its message of love and justice, taking it outside these walls or your walls at home to the world we live in until we are together again. Blessed be. Well, we've come to the end of another wonderful Sunday service. I thank those that were here today while we recorded this, and I welcome everybody as Ray cues up our peace song. If you'd like to come forward and sing or just stand where you are, we're going to sing our peace song. Thank you. Yes, this is the best part.